Good day, Blue Chessers. I am Gavin, and I'm back here with another video to show you the fastest win I've ever had against a chess master. My opponent from this match was FIDE master Gavin Klaasen, and we played a blitz game in leechess.org. After we played this match, I pretty much searched the person because I was curious to see who this FIDE master was. And to my surprise, I found out that Calvin Klaasen is actually a pretty popular icon in the chess world, in at least for South Africa, right? And he has his own Wikipedia page and a lot of other news articles about him. So I guess he's pretty popular in terms of chess. And I was lucky enough to be able to be matched against him in one of a random search games in leechess.org. Okay, so I already spoiled the ending. I won this match. Although I think the method of or how I won that game was pretty funny and pretty entertaining as well. So without further ado, let's start and see what happened in the game. Okay, so very standard game. Actually, it's a fast game. I think I played this in less than 3 minutes. So I think it was a 2 minute game because of how fast it finished. Or yeah, 2 minutes, like 1 to 2 minute game, really fast. So yeah, without further ado, let's take a look at what happened. So in this game, I played white here, and FIDE Master Calvin played black. And I started with my if people who know me very well, who have watched me in my previous streams, know that I always use pawn to e4. Very standard opening, very standard reply, and it's one of the oldest ideas or opening moves in chess. It's still being used until today, of course. So pawn to e4, and he replies with pawn to d6, which is the perk defense. So normally, if you're white here, you'd like to seize control of the center. So I played the move pawn to d4, very common move. Knight to f6. So opening is all about development, all about bringing your pieces into the center or developing your pieces towards the squares where it can be eventually gain some squares to control for the rest of the chess game. So I played knight to c3, very common reply as well. Okay, and he replied with pawn to e5. In this situation, this line in particular, which is played by a lot of people apparently also, the move pawn to e5 suggests that white and black will trade queens eventually. Because after I capture the pawn on e5 and black will capture back on e5, I will be able to trade my queen for black's queen, right? So kind of simplifies the game, and it leads it to, it's a faster, what do you call this? You're able to reach the end game a lot faster, than most openings and most game developments, right? So the move pawn to e5 is actually a very standard reply for black in the perk defense, but it's not the main line, but it is one of the variations that are available to us. Okay, so d takes e5 is played, which is what I've thought of already because I want to prevent my opponent from castling. Right? So if I trade queens, the king takes back, thus preventing castling for my opponent, which is good, right? So after exchanging the pawns, I exchange the queens as well, and in this position, I think I stand slightly better. Although, I mean, humanly, I think this is pretty much still equal, or yeah, very slight advantage for white. But it's not at all decisive of the game and of the result. Okay. So in this case, opening is all about development. And when I play, my next few moves are all about developing towards the center and developing my pieces towards the right squares where I want it to be. And the move I played here was bishop to g5. Simple developing move, bring out my pieces into the game and further attacking black's pieces by taking advantage of a pin on the knight and the black king. So you see here, this is a pin. So for those viewers out there who don't know what a pin is, this is a pin because the knight cannot move out because the king will be under attack right behind it. So yeah, so that's a pin, and at the same time developing my bishop. Okay. Calvin replies with bishop to e6, also developing his pieces at the same time when I'm developing mine. So it's more of a race, you'd say, of who develops faster. And here in the next move, I played castling, which is, I think, yeah, it's the best move because you're gonna castle, put your king to safety, while at the same time developing your own rook and delivering check, right? So it's a double purpose move. You develop your rook and keep your king safe, while at the same time attacking the black king. So it serves three purposes, I guess. Calvin replies with king to c8, and in this position, I know the standard reply here for black is normally to play pawn to c6. And the idea behind pawn to c6 is to prevent the knight from leaping closer to the king. Okay, so this move prevents actually the knight from leaping to more dangerous squares for black, right? However, knowing this idea that black will play c6, I kind of chose a different path in mind when I chose my certain move. So I chose the move bishop takes f6, eliminating the knight, and after capturing back, okay, black's pawn structure is now a bit, how would you say this? A bit messed up, a bit broken because there's doubled pawns, right? Although it's not necessarily the end of the world, but black's pawn structure is pretty, yeah, it's doubled pawns, so there's a chance that I can create a weakness there somewhere later on, right? So in this case, my idea was actually to play knight d5. And after I play knight d5, the idea is to prevent a certain c6 from kicking away my knight because I can attack the pawn. You know, it's a double purpose move. So at least there's more ideas from me present here. And let's say if ever black decides to play f5, pawn to f5, I can simply capture, for example, bishop takes, knight to e3, and wherever black chooses to play, I can bring out my bishop here or here. So I have options everywhere, all over the board, right? So I have different chances of play. Now definitely, I will want to exchange one of the bishops. I want to exchange this bishop for this. Definitely, I'm planning to do that already. But the time will come when that will happen. If ever black played that move, right? However, I think knight d5 is sort of an inaccuracy. It's not really the best reply here for white. And after analysis, I think the better move here would have been to play knight ge2. Although it's a lot more less active than the move I played, I think it's a very solid move, right? Now you might be asking, why knight ge2? Why not knight to f3? I think the idea of playing knight ge2 is be able to, gain some kind of a better scope for the knight. I think if ever, white might decide to develop the knight somewhere on the queen side, perhaps. Because look at this, if you play knight to f3, first of all, you're preventing the knight from coming here. And then you're allowing a bishop to b4 coming later on. So there's threats there, threat c6, and different sorts of idea. But it's not really that far apart anyway. But I think I would have preferred knight ge2. And then after this move, I think black will play c6. So pawn to c6 to stop my knight from leaping. Sorry. Stop my knight from leaping forward to d5 and b5. And then f4 probably. So this is to open up the position and to get to further weaken the dark squares here. Where further weaken the structure. So if I'm able to push this forward, this bishop will have to move back into a passive square. So at least I'm more active here in this position. Bishop to h6, creating a pin. g3. Pawn takes, knight takes, knight d7, king d1, so preventing a pin, king c7, bishop e2, rook a d8, rook hf1, bishop f8. Okay, so after this line, I kind of thought about it a bit, and I thought that, hey, okay, evaluating this position, I think black stands slightly better here in this case because if you take a look at white's pieces here, first of all, black has a pair of bishops, although that can be traded away by knight takes e6. But the problem is black's pawn structure will be fixed right after that. So I guess that black stands slightly better here due to the more active position of the king. Maybe also the pair of bishops. And I think the biggest asset that black has is the knight to e5, this move. So I think this is one of black's biggest assets. Although it can be still stopped because of rook takes f6, so there's still chances of counterplay here for both sides. But I think if ever we were to trade out certain pieces on the board and leave certain pieces on the board, this knight here on e5 will not be able to fight, will be able to trump this bishop here on e2. Because it's a light squared bishop, and this bishop will never be able to attack this knight here. So to think about it, maybe perhaps black can trade these two knights away and keep this knight here to play on e5. Maybe, could be an idea, but there are lots of different ideas here that are possible for black. Also for white anyway, so it isn't totally over, but I'd say it's pretty much equal with a very slight advantage for black, I'd say. Although this was not what happened in the game. And instead of playing knight ge2, I decided to play in the knight d5 idea. And here we continue on. So black plays the move bishop h6. Check. Which is a very standard move, right? Bishop h6 check, developing the bishop at the same time attacking my king. So at least you save one move, you gain tempo. And after king to b1, okay, black plays a rather, how would you say this? Rather surprising move. Very surprising move for a FIDE master. Although it does happen sometimes, right? And I'll go to my conclusion right after this. The move he played here. So if you guys want to guess, you can guess what move he played here. I think for those viewers out there who are very familiar with this type of idea or this type of like psychological trap, you'd say, will be able to tell what black played here. And the move that black played here was rook to d8. Right, so he played the move rook to d8. And after this move rook to d8, I was smiling because I was smiling and I was like, wait, question mark, because I think you guys, okay, so if you want to know what the next move is played, you guys can pause the video and try to find the best move for white here. But I think it's pretty obvious what the next move I played was. And after I played this move, my opponent left the game immediately and he just left. I think he kind of rage quitted or something. I don't know, but it was a very sweet victory for me because he's a chess master, he's a FIDE master. He's supposed to know this, but we're all human, right? And things like this happen, especially when you're human. But it's at a very rare occurrence, especially if you're at the high level, right? So for those of you who saw the move, congratulations. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, the move that I played here was a very stunning knight to e7 checkmate. And after move 11, so the game was only 11 moves long, I won the game. And he left immediately right after that. So he didn't even offer a rematch. He didn't even say a word on the chat box. He just left and didn't come back. This is already our second game, by the way. So I won the first game, and this is a rematch already. So it wasn't the first game that we played. But I just thought it was interesting to share to my viewers today about what happened here. So I hope you enjoyed this very short game. 11 moves, so very quick. Barely a minute, I think, or a minute and a half at most for this entire game. So anyway, yeah, I hope you enjoyed the game. I'll see you again for the next video. Peace.